Afternoon. I'm at Spørck Tileart's original location here in just 2 miles west of Suttons Bay, or that would be approximately probably 3 kilometers from Suttons Bay. This is where I grew up. That building there is where it's my dad's workshop. That's where he makes all the pots. Where he's made all the pots. He built that building with my mom's dad in 1974. All the firewood is used not to fire the kiln, but to heat the shop. He has a wood stove there. He used gas. Let's I'll show you the shop today instead of. I was going to show you guys the galleries, but I'll show you the shop instead. So this is where my dad's made all the pots. It's I make the clay here and I make the glazes here. It's a little bit messy. My dad's kind of always been that way a little bit. He works by himself, but it's amazing all the pots he has everywhere, and I think he turned 70. I don't know. Once he turned about 60, I kind of stopped thinking about ages. And now I'm turning 40 on Sunday, so I really don't even care anymore. So he grows tomato plants. He likes to grow up tomato plants. So those are dead tomato plants from the summer. But this is what it's like here in Michigan in the winter. The winter comes and it's all kind of wet and snowy, and we just wait to clean everything up in the spring. But I used to stack the firewood when I was a kid for my dad. We have some cats. We might see some cats when we go inside. So there's one. Kitty, how are you? How are you? Good kitty. Good kitty. Yes. There might be another one in there. All right, so this is where I make the clay, and so I'm actually going to clean this up. My dad's gone right now for a little bit, so you can see here the clay mixer. This is an old bread mixer from a pie company out of Traverse City. We've been using it. My dad's used it since 1974. This is what you call a pug mill. Making clay is messy. We have a fan back here we turn on. But it's just one of these things that you just can't avoid. And we're not a food. We don't make food here, so we clean it up every once in a while. You can spend all your time and all your money either cleaning things up yourself or employing people to clean things up. It's definitely nice to clean things up once in a while, but you can also get obsessive about it and spend all your time cleaning things up. To be able to work in somewhat of a chaotic situation is also, I think it shows a character and shows your ability to kind of multitask and handle kind of difficult situations as well. This is a pug mill. I mix the clay in there, pug it out here. It comes out in tubes, so it's easy to carry around, and so the wood stove. So these are all pots that my dad has been making in the last few weeks. He's on a kick right now. He wants to make a lot of big pots. So my dad's 70, just turned 70, so he makes a lot of. So he's making some big pots right now. This is a really big pot he made actually several years ago. It's been sitting here forever. I didn't think he was ever going to fire it. He has a big kiln. His old kiln, the kiln that I grew up with, is in there. I'll show you that in a minute. But this pot, I didn't think he was ever going to fire it. And then while I was in Oda, he this past time when I was in Oda, he bought a new kiln, which is going to arrive in the spring. And it's one of those kilns like the one that I have in Oda, where you open up the door in the front and you load things in the front, and he made sure to get a kiln that was big enough to fit this pot in. So I can tell he's kind of excited to fire that pot. Hopefully it doesn't crack or anything. But my dad used to make really big pots when he was younger, when he first started, and he was known for these big pots he'd make. So it's exciting to see him making some big pots again. My dad writes he keeps journals on his pots. And he was actually written about this in the Detroit Free Press, which is our state's biggest paper. They did a whole article on my dad several years ago. These are all glazed pots. Apple harvest is all in, well, colanders. These are ready to go in the kiln. This kiln, this is the kiln he bought in 2011 when he decided to take a break, and there were several reasons why he decided to take a break. But that's when I moved into my gallery, the gallery here, which I'll show a video of soon. But when he decided to take a break, his old kiln that I had always known him using when I was growing up. This is an electric kiln. His old kiln is a gas kiln. So I was surprised he got such a small kiln, because he just kind of wanted to do just a little bit of firings. He wanted to basically retire, kind of. He didn't say that. I don't really think he thought that either. I just think he needed a new kiln, which is, I'll show you that in a minute. And the process of, I don't think he wanted to buy a gas kiln. A new gas kiln, which is they're large and they're expensive, and you'd have to tear all this out in here. And to go from gas kiln to electric kiln, you go from this is oxidation firing, so there's oxygen in here. The elements just radiate heat; they don't burn oxygen. So there's oxygen in the firing, so it uses different glazes in a firing like this. But the gas kiln in the back, that burns off all the oxygen, so you have an environment without oxygen. So the firings are different, the glazes are different. So these are all the glaze bins. This is what I'm going to make in Oda for my shop, something like this. So the materials you use lots. There's a handful of different materials I use all the time. Those go into bigger bins. And then there's lots of little smaller colorants and different materials that just don't need bins. And, I'll make shelving for it. Then you have some trash cans for some other types of things. But the scale is a very important part of the whole glaze making process. So that's how I've used this scale to make all my glazes here. So these buckets are all full of different glazes and different colors. And it's messy when you're mixing these up. Glaze is splashing around. So you got to imagine this is like 50 years in here of making stuff. So he's actually kept it quite clean for 50 years of making stuff. When you think about it, we could take everything out and clean it. We did that a couple times when I was younger. So this is like, in my opinion, this is like a very special room. Hasn't really been touched in like 10 years when he stopped making pots in this kiln. But this is the original kiln right here. He built this himself in 1974, brick kiln, and you can see it was kind of falling apart. But so this is how he fired all his pots when I was growing up. So he would brick up the kiln himself, put all the bricks in the front wall, and then he did his bisque firings out here. So when I was a kid, I would open up this door when the firing was going on, and soot and black smoke would be coming out of the kiln, and there would be flames kind of firing out of the holes in the bricks that were stacked. So it was always really fascinating to be back here during the firings. The gas would go in there. So these are where he would do the bisque firings years ago when I was growing up. And then these are just more materials. But this room here's this is a kick wheel for making pots. So, well, that's all the time I have here. Hope you found this very interesting. my dad's gallery, his workshop.